Ultima goes to Tokyo Ghoul, T. Tigra's X Tokyo Ghoul, by Veldanava-God. Prologue. The grand halls of Tempest trembled with the aftershocks of a devastating explosion. Smoke curled in intricate patterns along the marble ceilings, and what once was a perfectly arranged meeting room now lay in utter disarray. Broken tables, shattered crystal goblets, and deep scorch marks lined the walls. At the heart of the destruction, two figures stood proudly, one with short blonde hair and a devilish grin, the other with a sleek purple ponytail, her arms crossed smugly over her chest. Ultima and CARRERA. TCH. You cheated, you damn delinquent. Ultima spat, brushing dust from her black military-style uniform. Hey, says the sore loser who can't take an L, CARRERA taunted, cracking her knuckles. Face it, you just aren't on my level. Around them, the assembled subordinates of Tempest kept their distance, too afraid to interfere. This was just another of their infamous duels. Competitions that had been ongoing since their days in the underworld. But this time, it had escalated beyond the usual bickering. The tension in the air was shattered as a voice, calm, yet carrying an undeniable authority, echoed through the ruined chamber. Enough. The very air seemed to freeze. A single glance toward the doorway revealed Rimuru Tempest, his golden eyes glowing with a dangerous glint. His usually easygoing demeanor was nowhere to be found. Behind him, Diablo watched in amused silence, though even he refrained from adding fuel to the fire. Ultima and CARRERA immediately straightened up. But Lord Rimuru, Ultima began, only to be silenced by a raised hand. I've had it with your ridiculous competitions. How many times have I told you two to control yourselves? Look at this mess. Rimuru sighed, rubbing his temples as he stepped forward. This is the third time this month. Enough is enough. CARRERA crossed her arms, puffing her cheeks out in annoyance. So what? We were just having fun. Fun? Rimuru shot her a sharp glare. You nearly vaporized half the city, again. Ultima and CARRERA exchanged awkward glances. Maybe they had gone a little overboard. Rimuru took a deep breath before smirking, a dangerous glint in his eye. Since you two love competing so much, I've decided on a fitting punishment. Both demons stiffened. Rimuru rarely resorted to punishments. What could possibly be worse than him scolding them? Your punishment is exile. The words sent a shockwave through the room. Diablo even raised an eyebrow. Hold on a minute, Rimuru-sama, Ultima started, but Rimuru held up a finger. I'm not done. I know the thing you two love the most is serving me. So, as punishment, I'm sending you to another world. Somewhere far from here. Let's see how you two handle things without Tempest's support. He smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly how to make them suffer. Ultima and CARRERA were left speechless, horror flashing in their eyes. You can't be serious. CARRERA finally shouted. You're taking away our jobs? Rimuru shrugged. You should have thought about that before wrecking my city. Besides, maybe a change of scenery will do you some good. Before either could protest further, a bright, swirling portal opened beneath their feet. The overwhelming force of Rimuru's magic flooded the room as tendrils of energy wrapped around their bodies, pulling them into the unknown. Try not to die out there, Rimuru said casually before the portal swallowed them whole. As the light faded, the room was left in eerie silence. Diablo let out a chuckle. Oh my, Rimuru-sama. That was rather cruel of you. Rimuru smirked. They'll be fine. Probably, and with that, the two troublemakers were gone. Sent spiraling into an unfamiliar world, one filled with horrors unlike anything they had ever faced before. Chapter 1. A new reality. A blinding flash of light engulfed Ultima and CARRERA as they were forcibly ejected from the world they had known. Their bodies, once accustomed to the overwhelming magical density of Tempest, now felt light, almost disturbingly so. As the portal dissipated, they stumbled onto a hard, cold surface, an unfamiliar skyline looming above them. Towering buildings stretched into the sky, their metallic structures reflecting the dim glow of artificial lights. The air smelled different, less natural, filled with an unfamiliar mixture of concrete, smoke, and something else that felt oddly sterile. The sky above was overcast, the murky glow of city lights replacing the natural moonlight they were used to. Where are we? Ultima muttered, brushing dust off her now strangely different outfit. Instead of her usual military-style uniform, she was clad in something more modern: black fitted pants, a dark red jacket, and boots that seemed designed for urban traversal. CARRERA, standing beside her, had a similar reaction, her eyes narrowing as she scanned their surroundings. This place. It feels nothing like Tempest. What kind of city is this? Before either of them could ponder further, a familiar voice echoed in their minds through thought communication. Greetings, Ultima, CARRERA. You are now in a city called Tokyo. The unmistakable voice of Seal rang with its usual calm yet authoritative tone. Seal, Ultima exclaimed. What the hell is going on? CARRERA crossed her arms, clearly irritated. Yeah, explain, now. Seal, unaffected by their demands, continued with its explanation. Rimuru-sama has decided that your continuous disputes warranted punishment. As such, you have been sent to this world to learn discipline. This world is vastly different from the one you know, both in structure and in its rules. You will need to adapt. Ultima and CARRERA exchanged glances. The idea of punishment from Rimuru was laughable, yet here they were, stranded in an unfamiliar place with their powers feeling. Ultima's eyes widened. Wait. My magic? CARRERA clenched her fists, her expression darkening. It's weak. No, it's almost non-existent. What did you do? Ciel's voice remained calm. I took the liberty of adjusting your species. You are no longer demons. You are now ghouls. For the first time in centuries, the two fell silent. Ghouls? Ultima finally asked, her voice filled with uncharacteristic hesitation. Correct. If you had remained as demons, your mere presence would have erased this world due to its lower energy levels. Thus, you have been converted into creatures that naturally fit within its ecosystem. CARRERA scoffed. And what exactly are ghouls supposed to be? Seal continued. Ghouls are a predatory species that exist within human society. They resemble humans but possess enhanced physical abilities, regenerative capabilities, and unique biological weapons called cocoon. However, there is one crucial difference. Ghouls can only sustain themselves by consuming human flesh. Ultima's expression twisted in disgust. Wait, what? Are you saying we have to eat humans to survive? Correct. Failure to do so will result in starvation and eventual loss of cognitive function. Additionally, human society has created an organization called the CCG, tasked with exterminating ghouls. You will be perceived as threats if discovered. CARRERA clicked her tongue, clearly unimpressed. So not only are we weaker, but now we have to deal with a bunch of humans trying to kill us. This punishment is ridiculous. Ultima, ever the thinker, was already analyzing the situation. You mentioned cocoon. What exactly are they? Cocoon are predatory appendages unique to each ghoul. They manifest based on the RC cells within your body. The stronger your RC cells, the more powerful your cocoon. In terms of classification, ghouls are ranked by threat level. C, B, A, S, SS, and SSS. As of now, both of you are ranked SS. However, should you reach your maximum strength in this world, you will reach SSS. CARRERA cracked her knuckles. Huh. So we're still considered top tier here? That's more like it. Ultima, however, was still contemplating their new reality. And what about Rimuru-sama? What are his expectations? Seal paused for a brief moment before responding. Your task is to survive and learn from this world. That is all Rimuru-sama desires. The connection was cut, leaving the two alone once more. A heavy silence settled between them. The realization of their situation was finally sinking in. They were in a foreign world, stripped of their former power, forced into the roles of predators who needed to consume human flesh to survive. CARRERA let out an exasperated sigh. So, what now? We find some random human and eat them. Ultima rolled her eyes. I doubt we can just waltz up to someone and take a bite. We need information. Scanning the area, Ultima's gaze landed on a small convenience store nearby, its bright lights standing out against the darkened streets. We should start by figuring out how this world works. Humans gather in places like that, right? CARRERA smirked. Fine. But if anyone gets in my way, I'm not holding back. With their new reality set before them, Ultima and CARRERA stepped forward, ready to face the unknown world of Tokyo and the dangerous life of a ghoul. Chapter 2. A new home. The bright neon lights of Tokyo illuminated the city streets as Ultima and CARRERA walked side by side. The towering buildings stretched high into the night sky, their sheer size still a foreign sight to the two former primordial demons. Even though they had spent centuries in different realms, nothing quite compared to the technological marvel of this world. The hustle and bustle of the city, the sound of distant sirens, and the chatter of humans going about their mundane lives were all things they were still trying to adjust to. Carrera stretched her arms above her head, sighing dramatically. This place is so weird. No magicules anywhere. Just plain old air. I hate it. Ultima giggled, twirling a lock of her violet hair. I think it's kinda fun. It's a fresh start. We get to experience something new. And, besides. Her golden eyes glowed slightly. We still have power. Even if we're weaker than before, we're still far beyond the average creature of this world. Carrera crossed her arms, smirking. Yeah, but still, I want to blow something up just to see what happens. Please don't, Ultima sighed, already feeling the familiar headache of dealing with her companion's destructive tendencies. As they approached a brightly lit convenience store, Carrera's stomach growled loudly. I'm starving. Let's grab something to eat. Ultima nodded, but as they stepped inside, a realization dawned on them. Wait a minute. We don't have any money. We just got here, remember? Carrera blinked. Oh, crap. You're right. Instinctively, both reached into their pockets, and to their surprise, they each found a sleek black wallet. Inside was a credit card and a small folded note. Ultima unfolded hers and read aloud. This credit card has unlimited funds. I have also prepared a house for you to live in. Use it wisely. The address is listed below. Seal. Ultima and Carrera exchanged glances before simultaneously grinning. Oh, I love her, Carrera laughed, flipping the card between her fingers. Ultima chuckled. Guess that means we're set. Let's grab whatever we need. They wasted no time browsing the aisles, picking up essentials for their new home. Food, toiletries, random household items. They grabbed anything that caught their eye. Despite knowing they couldn't eat human food anymore, they still picked up snacks just for the sake of experiencing the novelty of it. After checking out, they followed the address provided by Seal. The house was located in a quieter part of Tokyo, away from the dense crowds. It was a two-story home, sleek and modern, standing proudly with a small front yard and a gated entrance. The moment Ultima stepped inside, she whistled in admiration. Wow. Not bad at all. Carrera threw herself onto the couch, sprawling out like a cat. I could get used to this. They spent the next hour organizing their belongings, getting used to the layout of the house. The kitchen was spacious, the living room cozy, and each of them had their own separate rooms. However, it was in their bedroom that they stumbled upon something unexpected. Neatly laid out on their respective beds were two familiar sets of clothing, identical to the outfits they had worn back in Tempest. Next to them were two masks. Carrera picked hers up first, examining the design. It was sleek and intimidating, jet black with a menacing skull-like structure, silver teeth etched into the lower half, giving her an eerie grin. Ultima's mask, in contrast, was a deep violet, covering her mouth and nose, adorned with intricate curved markings resembling demonic fangs. Resting on top of the clothes was another note from Seal. These will be your outfits while operating as ghouls. You need to remain unidentified by the CCG. Consider them your new battle gear. Make good use of them. Carrera snickered. She really thought of everything, huh? Ultima smirked, slipping into her outfit. She always does. Once fully dressed, the two stood before a full-length mirror, admiring their new appearances. Ultima adjusted her mask, testing its fit. Not bad. We look badass. Carrera laughed. Like true predators. Ultima turned to Carrera, her golden eyes gleaming behind her mask. So, shall we hunt? Carrera grinned wildly. Hell yeah. Let's go find ourselves a meal. And with that, the two ghouls vanished into the night, ready to embrace their new existence in this unfamiliar world. Chapter 3. A predator's night. The neon lights of Tokyo flickered against the cold steel of the buildings, illuminating the narrow alleyways with an artificial glow. The city pulsed with life, oblivious to the two figures stalking through the shadows. Ultima and Carrera, clad in their newly gifted outfits and masks, moved with a predatory grace, their golden eyes scanning the dimly lit corridors of the urban jungle. This place is so different from Tempest, Carrera mused, running a hand along the brick wall of an alley. No magicules in the air, no demons lurking in the shadows. Just humans and their ridiculous metal boxes speeding through the streets. Ultima smirked beneath her mask. Yes, but that just makes it more fun, doesn't it? We are the apex predators in a world of blind prey. They don't even know what's about to hit them. The two continued their silent hunt, listening for the sound of vulnerable prey. Their new bodies, though weaker than their previous demonic forms, still granted them abilities far beyond the average human, or even the average ghoul. The moment they stepped into this world, their instincts had sharpened, their senses attuned to the faintest heartbeat, the slightest shift in movement. After several minutes of wandering, their patience was rewarded. In the depths of a secluded alley, a couple stood in an intimate embrace. Two young women, whispering softly to each other, their eyes filled with affection. Ultima tilted her head, her gaze filled with mock pity. "What a shame," she murmured. "Such a tender moment, only to be cut short." Carrera chuckled darkly. "Oh well, we all have to eat, don't we?" As one, they activated their Kagun. Ultima's ukaku flared from her back, ethereal wings composed of dense, organic energy, shimmering in the dim light. Carrera's rinkaku unraveled like serpents, twisting and flexing with lethal intent. The two women barely had time to scream before the ghouls pounced. Ultima struck first, sending a flurry of hardened projectiles from her Kagun toward one of the women. The sharp shards tore into her flesh, painting the alley in streaks of crimson. She gasped, stumbling backward, clutching at the wounds on her arms and chest, her breath coming in shallow, panicked gulps. Carrera, however, was far less delicate. Her rinkaku lashed forward, piercing through the second woman's abdomen in a single, merciless thrust. Blood splattered onto the pavement as the girl choked on a strangled scream, her body convulsing in agony. Carrera grinned beneath her mask, relishing the sensation. "Too easy," she muttered, pulling her Kagun free. The woman collapsed, lifeless, her body already cooling in the night air. Ultima, on the other hand, took her time. She circled her wounded prey, watching as the woman trembled, struggling to remain standing. "Ah, still conscious? You're more resilient than I thought," Ultima mused, crouching down. She reached out, stroking the woman's bloodied cheek with a mockingly gentle touch. "But you're suffering, aren't you? Do you want me to end it quickly?" Her voice was honeyed, sweet, yet dripping with sadistic amusement. The woman's lips trembled, but no words came out. Instead, Ultima leaned in closer, her Kagun pulsating with anticipation. "No? Then I suppose I'll just enjoy myself a little longer?" She continued her assault for another 2 minutes, drawing out the kill with calculated cruelty. It wasn't until the woman's breath hitched one last time that Ultima finally sank her teeth into her flesh, savoring the warm rush of blood down her throat. Carrera had already finished her meal, licking the last traces of red from her fingertips. "Satisfied?" she asked, stretching lazily. Ultima wiped her mouth and sighed. That was entertaining. As they turned to leave, a voice echoed from the darkness. "You two sure made a mess." Both ghouls halted, their eyes snapping toward the source of the voice. Standing at the entrance of the alley was a figure with unruly green hair and a mischievous smile. One eye glowed red with a Kakugan, the other a normal human hue. "A one-eyed ghoul?" Ultima mused, straightening up. "Interesting." The girl tilted her head. "You must be new here if you don't know me. The name's Ito." Carrera smirked. "And what does a one-eyed ghoul want with us?" Eto's smile widened. "Oh, nothing much. I just thought it was about time we met." And with that, the night grew even more intriguing. Chapter 4. A tempting proposition. Eto's single Kakugan gleamed in the dimly lit alleyway as she faced Ultima and Carrera. Her emerald hair cascaded over her shoulders, slightly tousled by the night breeze. She smirked, a mixture of curiosity and amusement dancing in her expression. "Stop right there," she commanded, her voice calm yet firm. Ultima and Carrera, who had just finished their meal, turned to face the newcomer. They exchanged glances before looking at the one-eyed ghoul in front of them. Ultima licked her fingers, savoring the last taste of her prey, while Carrera folded her arms, tilting her head slightly. "And who might you be?" Ultima asked, her tone playful yet edged with caution. "Ito." The girl introduced herself with a grin. "And you two are quite the sight. Not every day I see ghouls as strong as you. Especially ones I don't recognize." Carrera scoffed. "You were watching us this whole time?" She wiped the corner of her mouth, glancing back at the remains of their victims. Ito chuckled. "I had a feeling you'd be interesting. My instincts were right." Ultima narrowed her golden eyes, intrigued but not entirely trusting. "So, what do you want, Ito?" Ito took a step closer, her smirk widening. "I want to extend an invitation." She crossed her arms, her posture casual yet confident. "I lead an organization called Aogiri Tree. You may have heard of us." Carrera raised an eyebrow. "Can't say we have. We're new around here." Ito nodded as if she had already expected the response. Aogiri Tree is a group dedicated to changing the world for ghouls. Right now, we live in the shadows, hunted, forced to hide like rats. But that's not how it should be. Humans should fear us. We should be the ones in control. Aogiri's goal is to create a world where ghouls don't have to cower. Her eye gleamed with a fervent intensity. You two are strong. You could be useful to us. And in return, you'd have a place where you belong. Ultima glanced at CARRERA, the corners of her lips curling into a smirk. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? CARRERA chuckled. Yeah, finally, someone with the right mindset. Eto's eye flickered with amusement. So, is that a yes? Ultima tapped her chin thoughtfully. Tempting, but we don't like being tied down to something too quickly. CARRERA nodded. We prefer to explore our options first. Ito studied them for a moment before nodding. Fair enough. I won't push, but if you change your minds, meet me here a week from now, same time. Ultima's eyes twinkled with amusement. Maybe we will. With a smirk, Ito turned on her heel and disappeared into the shadows of the alleyway. The two ghouls remained silent for a few moments, processing the conversation. She's interesting, Ultima mused. She has the right idea, CARRERA agreed. Humans being in control is ridiculous. We should be the ones running things. Ultima stretched her arms. Well, let's head home. We'll think about it later. They exited the alley, the cool night air wrapping around them as they made their way back to their new home. The city buzzed with life despite the late hour. Cars zipped by, neon lights flickered, and humans walked the streets, blissfully unaware of the predators in their midst. Upon reaching their house, Ultima flopped onto the couch while CARRERA leaned against the wall, deep in thought. Then, suddenly, thought communication activated. CL's voice resonated in their minds. Good work finding food tonight, but I have another task for you. Ultima sat up. Oh, already giving us homework? CL ignored the sarcasm. Your next mission is simple. Ensure the survival of Ito Yoshimura. CARRERA blinked. Wait, what? We just met her. Correct. And she will be crucial to your experience in this world, CL explained. Her life is in danger, and I need you two to make sure she survives. Ultima smirked. Now that's interesting. Any details? Not yet, CL responded. Just know that you must keep her alive. Consider it part of your punishment. CARRERA rolled her eyes. Figures. We'll do it. CL's presence faded, leaving the two ghouls alone once more. Ultima grinned at CARRERA. Well, looks like we're playing bodyguards. CARRERA cracked her knuckles. Let's just hope we get to have some fun along the way. The night stretched ahead, filled with possibilities, and for the first time since arriving in this world, Ultima and CARRERA felt truly excited. Chapter 5. A decision over coffee morning discussion. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the room as Ultima slowly stretched her arms. Letting out a soft yawn, she turned her head to the side, only to see CARRERA still sprawled out on the bed, her blonde hair in complete disarray. She was snoring lightly, completely unbothered by the new day's arrival. Ultima sighed, sitting up. Oi, CARRERA, wake up already. We have things to talk about. CARRERA groaned, turning over to bury her face into the pillow. 5 more minutes. Rolling her eyes, Ultima grabbed the nearest pillow and smacked CARRERA with it. No, wake up now. Unless you want me to pour cold water on you? CARRERA instantly sat up, rubbing her eyes. Fine, fine. I'm awake. What's so damn important this early? Ultima crossed her arms. Did you forget already? The mission from CL. We need to prevent Ito's death. That means we need to think about whether we should accept her offer and join Aogiri. CARRERA blinked a few times before finally processing the situation. Right. Damn. I hate making decisions first thing in the morning. But yeah, you have a point. If we're inside Aogiri, we'll be closer to Ito and can make sure nothing happens to her. Ultima smirked. Glad to see you're using that brain of yours. CARRERA shot her a glare. Oi, watch it. Ignoring her, Ultima stood up. I was thinking, we could go discuss this somewhere else. You know, get some fresh air. I saw a place called Anteiku yesterday. It's a small cafe, looks decent enough. CARRERA raised an eyebrow. A cafe? You never struck me as the type to enjoy coffee? Ultima shrugged. I don't, but it's a quiet place where we won't be interrupted. What do you say? CARRERA stretched her arms before getting up. Fine, Let's go check it out. Arrival at Anteiku. After getting dressed in their usual casual attire, the two made their way toward the cafe. Anteiku wasn't far, just a few streets down, nestled in a quieter part of the ward. The moment they arrived, ULTIMA took in the warm, inviting atmosphere of the place. It was small but cozy, with wooden furniture and a pleasant aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. A few patrons sat at tables, enjoying their drinks while engaging in hushed conversations. As they stepped inside, a young waitress approached them. She had dark blue hair, styled in a short bob, with long bangs covering one side of her face. Her blue eyes regarded them carefully before she offered a polite smile. "Welcome to Anteiku. I'm Tuka, I'll be your server. Please, follow me." ULTIMA and CARRERA exchanged a glance before following Tuka to an empty table near the window. As they sat down, Tuka handed them menus. "What can I get for you two?" "2 coffees, ULTIMA answered without hesitation. CARRERA leaned back in her seat. "Yeah, same for me." Tuka nodded. "Got it, I'll be back in a moment." As she walked away, CARRERA propped her elbow on the table and rested her chin on her hand. "She's a ghoul." ULTIMA smirked. "You can tell, huh?" CARRERA chuckled. "Of course, I'm not blind, but the way she blends in here, it's kind of impressive." "Yeah," ULTIMA agreed. "Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Joining Aogiri." CARRERA sighed. "I hate to say it, but it might actually be the best choice. If we're with Aogiri, we'll have direct access to Ito and can intervene when necessary." ULTIMA nodded. "That's what I was thinking too. We just have to make sure we don't get too deep into their mess." Before they could continue, an older man approached their table, holding a tray with their coffee. He had a calm, dignified air about him, with silver hair and kind eyes. He placed the drinks on the table and offered a gentle smile. "Good morning. I hope you don't mind me introducing myself. My name is Yoshimura, the owner of this cafe." ULTIMA and CARRERA both glanced at each other before turning back to him. "Nice to meet you," ULTIMA said cautiously. Yoshimura's expression remained warm. "Forgive my curiosity, but I overheard a bit of your conversation. You mentioned Aogiri. If I may ask, are you two ghouls?" Both ULTIMA and CARRERA tensed slightly. The fact that he had figured them out so easily was surprising. "And if we are?" CARRERA asked, her tone laced with caution. Yoshimura simply chuckled. "No need to be alarmed. I have no intention of harming you. I simply wish to extend an offer. If you ever wish for a place to work and find refuge, Anteiku will welcome you. We assist ghouls who seek to coexist peacefully with humans." ULTIMA narrowed her eyes slightly. "And why should we trust you?" "Because I understand the struggle," Yoshimura said calmly. "I understand that many ghouls desire a life outside of violence. If that is ever something you desire, you are welcome here." ULTIMA and CARRERA remained silent for a moment, considering his words. He certainly didn't seem like a threat, and his presence carried a certain wisdom that made it difficult to doubt him. "We'll think about it," ULTIMA finally said. Yoshimura nodded. "Take your time. Whenever you make your decision, you may let me know." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the two to their coffee and their thoughts. As they sipped their coffee in silence, ULTIMA tapped her fingers on the table. "What do you think?" CARRERA sighed. "Honestly, Anteiku seems like a nice place, but we have a mission. If we work here, it'll make things harder. If we're with Aogiri, we'll have a better chance at protecting Ito." ULTIMA nodded. "Exactly my thoughts." Finishing their coffee, they stood up and made their way to the exit. As they passed by Yoshimura, ULTIMA paused and looked at him. "Thanks for the offer, but we have an objective to complete. Working here would interfere with that." Yoshimura nodded understandingly. "I see. If your path ever changes, Anteiku's doors will remain open for you." ULTIMA gave a slight nod before stepping out into the streets with CARRERA. The decision had been made. Their next move was clear. They would join Aogiri Tree. Chapter 6. The Feast in the Shadows. 5 days had passed since their visit to Anteiku, and ULTIMA and CARRERA were now preparing for their upcoming meeting with Ito. Tomorrow, they would finally take the first step into the Aogiri Tree. However, despite being able to last nearly 2 months without eating, they both agreed it would be best to feed beforehand to ensure they were at full strength when meeting Ito. As night fell, they roamed the streets in search of their prey. The city was alive with its usual nocturnal hum, but they had no interest in the mundane affairs of humans. Their eyes scanned for an easy target, and soon enough, they spotted 2 men drunkenly stumbling into a dark alleyway. "Perfect," Carrera whispered with a smirk. Two idiots walking straight into their deaths. Ultima chuckled. They have no idea what's coming, shall we? Without hesitation, Carrera unleashed her Rinkaku Kagoon, 4 powerful, whip-like tentacles that sprouted from her lower back. They gleamed under the dim streetlights, poised to strike. In a blur of motion, she lunged forward and impaled her target through the chest before he could even react. The man let out a strangled gasp before his body went limp, collapsing to the ground in a lifeless heap. Ultima, on the other hand, preferred to play with her food. She activated her Ukaku Kagoon, a radiant wing of energy-like substance forming on her back. Instead of delivering an instant kill, she shot small projectiles into her victim's limbs, watching as the man screamed in agony. "You're much more fun than that guy over there," she teased, tilting her head as she stepped closer. "I wonder how long you can keep screaming before you die." The man coughed up blood, eyes wide with terror. Please. I have a family." Ultima sighed, feigning disappointment. "They all say that." With a swift motion, she drove her hand into his chest, gripping his heart. The man convulsed before going still, and she ripped the organ out, watching as the life faded from his eyes. Much better." Carrera had already finished eating, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. "You take way too long," she commented. "You could have just killed him in an instant." Ultima took a bite from the heart, smirking. "Where's the fun in that?" Before they could leave, a pair of figures emerged from the darkness. A male and female ghoul stood before them, their faces twisted in anger. "This is our territory," the male growled. "You killed on our turf, that means you die." Ultima and Carrera exchanged amused glances. "Oh no, Carrera," Ultima mocked, feigning concern. "They're going to kill us. Whatever shall we do?" Carrera laughed. "I say we let them try." The male ghoul roared in rage and activated his Bakaku Kagoon, a thick, tail-like appendage extending from his lower back. The female followed suit, revealing a Kokaku Kagoon, her arm transforming into a hardened blade. "Cute," Carrera said, unimpressed, "but you'll have to do better than that." Before they could react, Carrera moved in a flash, her Rinkaku slicing clean through the male's neck. His head hit the ground before his body realized it was dead, collapsing shortly after. Blood pooled at her feet as she turned to face Ultima. "That was easy. Your turn." Ultima took her time, firing a barrage of Ukaku projectiles into the female ghoul's arms, legs, and torso. The woman shrieked, collapsing onto her knees, bleeding from multiple wounds. Ultima approached slowly, crouching down to meet her terrified gaze. "Now, what should I do with you?" she mused, brushing the woman's blood-stained hair from her face. "I could kill you instantly. Or I could devour you alive. Which do you prefer?" The female ghoul trembled, unable to respond. Tears streamed down her face as she realized there was no escape. Ultima smiled cruelly. "I'll take that as an invitation." With one swift motion, she tore off the woman's foot and took a bite. The ghoul let out a blood-curdling scream, but Ultima only laughed. "You taste awful, but I suppose I shouldn't be picky." Carrera rolled her eyes. "Stop playing with your food and just eat already. You've heard what they say. Ghouls get stronger when they devour each other." Ultima nodded and continued her gruesome meal, devouring the woman piece by piece as she screamed until her voice gave out. Meanwhile, Carrera wasted no time in consuming the male ghoul she had killed. Once they had finished, they wiped the blood from their mouths and began their journey back home. "That was fun," Carrera said, stretching. "I feel stronger already." Ultima nodded in agreement. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Let's make sure Ito sees why we're the best candidates for Aogiri." With that, they disappeared into the night, anticipation building for what was to come. I forgot to say, but this story will follow the Tokyo Ghoul manga and not the anime. And yesterday I won the manga collection of Tokyo Ghoul. So finally I can finish this peak manga. Chapter 7. Into the shadows of Aogiri. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. Ultima and Carrera were about to meet Ito once again, this time to formally accept her proposal and join Aogiri Tree. The air in their apartment was thick with anticipation as they prepared for the meeting. Carrera sat on the couch, lazily stretching her arms while watching Ultima carefully inspect her mask. "You're taking this pretty seriously, huh?" she remarked, tilting her head. Ultima chuckled, running her fingers along the smooth surface of the mask before placing it over her face. "Of course. If we're going to make a strong first impression, we need to look the part." Ito doesn't seem like the type to tolerate half-heartedness. Carrera smirked and leaned back. Yeah. Just don't take too long. We've only got an hour before the meeting. Ultima's golden eyes gleamed as she adjusted her cloak and turned toward Carrera. Let's go then. No point in making her wait. The two stepped out into the streets of Tokyo, their dark attire blending into the shadows as they moved. The city was alive with the usual hum of distant conversations, flickering neon lights, and the occasional sound of sirens wailing through the night. The path they took led them through narrow alleys and abandoned passageways until they finally arrived at the location of their first meeting with Ito. A dark, secluded alleyway between two old buildings. It was the perfect place for creatures like them to converse away from prying human eyes. As they leaned against the walls, waiting, Carrera tapped her fingers against her thigh. You think she'll be on time? Ultima shrugged. She was last time. True to form, Ito arrived just 5 minutes later, emerging from the darkness like a ghost. She wore a small, knowing smile, her piercing eyes scanning them both before she tilted her head. I see you two came prepared. That's good. Ultima and Carrera exchanged glances before Ultima stepped forward. We've thought it through, and we've decided to accept your offer. But there's one thing you should know before we officially join. Ito raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what would that be? Carrera crossed her arms. We're not the type to take orders from just anyone. If we're joining, we want to lead. No grunts, no chains, no restrictions. Give us a division to command, and we'll make sure Aogiri gets stronger. For a moment, Ito was silent. Then, her lips curled into a grin. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. I had no intention of keeping you two as mere foot soldiers. Your strength is wasted in the ranks. I want you both as division leaders. Ultima smirked. Then it seems we have an agreement. Ito nodded and gestured for them to follow. Good. Come with me. It's time you saw the heart of Aogiri. As they walked, Ultima and Carrera felt the weight of their decision settle in. They were stepping into the world of Aogiri, a world of violence, chaos, and power. And they were ready for it and have a lot of fun. Chapter 8. Into the Aogiri tree base. The cold, damp air of the 11th ward was thick with the scent of rust and decay as Ultima and Carrera followed Ito through the maze of alleyways. The sun was barely visible behind the towering buildings, casting long shadows over the desolate streets. It had been a long time since either of them had felt excitement quite like this. A new organization to shake things up, new opportunities, and more importantly, new fights to look forward to. Carrera stretched her arms above her head, exhaling as she walked. So, this Aogiri place. Are they all as crazy as you, Ito? Or are we going to have to do some house cleaning? Her blue eyes gleamed with amusement behind her mask. Ito, walking a few paces ahead, let out a chuckle, her bandaged form shrouded in an air of mystery. Oh, you'll fit right in. Some of them are monsters, others are just misguided. But they all share one thing. A desire for power. You'll like it here. Ultima, walking alongside Carrera, tilted her head. HMPH, sounds fun, but we're not here to take orders. We want power, but on our own terms. Her tone was sharp, direct. We don't submit to anyone. Ito paused for a moment, then turned her head slightly, revealing a sharp smile beneath her mask. That's exactly why I'm giving you leadership positions. I need people like you, strong, fearless. Unpredictable. She resumed walking, motioning for them to follow. Now, let's get you two introduced. After weaving through narrow passageways, Ito finally led them to a massive complex of crumbling buildings. The Aogiri tree base loomed over them, a collection of interconnected structures that looked more like an abandoned fortress than an organized headquarters. The closer they got, the stronger the presence of ghouls became. The air was thick with hunger, aggression, and the unmistakable scent of blood. Ito stepped aside as they entered one of the main buildings, where the first of their introductions would take place. The dimly lit room was filled with the sound of agonized screams. A massive figure stood over a bound ghoul, his claws slicing deep into the poor victim's body. Blood pooled around his feet. Ito gestured lazily. Meet Yamori, he enjoys entertainment. Yamori turned his head slightly, his sadistic grin widening as he took in the new arrivals. His piercing gaze settled on Ultima and Carrera. Oh, and who are these two? New toys? He chuckled darkly, yanking the ghoul's head back by the hair before slamming it into the ground. Carrera scoffed, placing a hand on her hip. You call that torture? Pathetic. If you want to break someone, you need to make them feel truly hopeless. That's just crude brutality. Yamori's grin faltered for a moment, then returned even wider. Ha! A woman after my own heart. Maybe we should compare methods sometime. Ultima simply rolled her shoulders, uninterested. Torture is fun and all, but dragging it out for no reason. Boring. Just kill them when they stop being amusing. Ito smirked. I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to exchange techniques. For now, let's move on. As they continued deeper into the base, Ito led them to another room, where two figures stood side by side, both with a matching sense of unease about them. The Bin brothers. Ito gestured toward them. Meet the Bin brothers. They follow orders well and are good in a fight. Not as flashy as some of our members, but useful. One of the brothers narrowed his eyes at CARRERA. HMPH, another pair of brats? CARRERA grinned, stepping forward slightly. Brat, you want to test that theory? Ultima let out a small laugh. Careful, CARRERA. You might break them before we get to know them. The brothers exchanged a glance, their tension easing slightly. One of them shrugged. We'll see if you're as strong as you act when the time comes. Ito clapped her hands together. Moving on. Next up, Ayato. They found Ayato in another section of the complex, leaning against a wall with his arms crossed. He looked the newcomers up and down, his expression unreadable. So, these are the new recruits? Ayato asked, his voice laced with skepticism. Ultima smirked. Hardly recruits, we don't follow anyone. CARRERA leaned in slightly. Yeah, Ito here is just smart enough to know what she's got. Ayato exhaled through his nose. TCH. As long as you don't get in my way, I don't care. Ito patted Ayato's shoulder. Relax. They'll be too busy fighting to care about your business. Ayato shook his head. We'll see about that. Finally, Ito led them to a more isolated part of the complex. Two figures stood before them. One, a tall man with a fearsome presence, his eyes burning with intensity. Tatara. Beside him, the silent enigma that was Noro. Ito gestured to them. Tatara, Noro, these are our new members. Tatara studied them carefully, his gaze unwavering. You're strong. I can tell. His voice was deep and commanding. If you wish to lead, you will need to prove yourselves in battle. CARRERA's grin widened. Oh, we were hoping you'd say that. Ultima crossed her arms. Just point us in the right direction. Tatara nodded. Good, you will have your chance soon. Ito finally turned to Ultima and CARRERA, arms crossed. Well, what do you think? Ready to burn this city to the ground? CARRERA cracked her knuckles. Now you're talking. Ultima's golden eyes gleamed. Let's make things interesting. With that, their initiation into the Aogiri tree had begun. Chapter 9. Nightfall Hunt. Ultima and CARRERA versus the Doves. The night was young, the city bathed in the glow of streetlights, and the air carried the distant hum of a metropolis that never truly slept. A month had passed since Ultima and CARRERA had joined Aogiri, and while they had built a strong rapport with Ito and Tatara, their interactions with the other members of the organization had been minimal at best. They preferred it that way. Less distraction, more focus on their own goals. But tonight was different. The door to their room swung open without warning, revealing Ito, her small frame draped in bandages, her single visible eye gleaming with mischief and something deeper, anticipation. Wake up, you two, Ito called out, leaning casually against the doorframe. I've got a mission for you. CARRERA, who had been lazily sprawled across her bed, stretched her arms and gave a toothy grin. Finally, I was getting bored. What's the job? Ultima sat up, golden eyes gleaming in the dim light. Something entertaining, I hope. Ito chuckled, stepping fully into the room. Very. There's a CCG squad operating in the 15th ward. They're not your run-of-the-mill investigators either. This group consists of a special class investigator, a senior investigator, 2 rank 1s, and a rank 2. They've been causing quite a bit of trouble for our operations. CARRERA's grin widened. A special class investigator, huh? Sounds fun. Ultima tilted her head. Are we to eliminate all of them? Ito smirked. That's the idea. Make sure they don't walk away from this. Ultima exchanged a glance with CARRERA, a silent understanding passing between them. Then, in unison, they stood up. Consider it done, Ultima said. CARRERA cracked her knuckles. This is going to be a blast. With their masks secured, Ultima and CARRERA moved through the city streets like specters, the shadows their only companions. The 15th ward was alive with distant sirens and the occasional echo of footsteps on pavement, but none of it concerned them. Their target was clear. By the time they reached their destination, the sky had turned a deep indigo, the city lights painting a glow along the horizon. From their vantage point atop a dilapidated building, they could see their prey. The squad of CCG investigators, standing in formation near an abandoned warehouse. They were prepared for battle, quinks ready, eyes scanning the darkness. "They're on edge," Ultima noted. "Good," Carrera said with a smirk. "That makes it more fun when we break them." Ultima let out a soft chuckle. "Shall we?" Without waiting for an answer, Carrera leapt from the building, landing gracefully in front of the squad. Ultima followed suit, touching down beside her. The investigators immediately snapped to attention, weapons raised. The special class investigator, an older man with sharp gray eyes and a deep scar running down his cheek, took a step forward. "Ghouls," he said coldly. "Identify yourselves." Carrera laughed. "What, you want our names? Sorry, but we're not here to make friends." Ultima smirked, tilting her head slightly, "But we can leave you with some parting gifts." The Rank 2 investigator, a younger man with trembling hands, visibly flinched. "Yes, sir, these ghouls. Something about them." "Focus." The senior investigator barked. "We've taken down worse." Ultima's golden eyes gleamed with amusement. "Oh, is that so? Then you won't mind if we test that confidence of yours." Before the words had fully left her lips, Carrera lunged forward, her rinkaku bursting from her back in a flurry of crimson tendrils. The nearest Rank 1 investigator barely had time to react before one of the tendrils shot through his chest, impaling him instantly. His quinque clattered to the ground as he let out a strangled gasp. "One down," Carrera sang, kicking his lifeless body aside. The other investigators sprung into action, their quinks slicing through the air with practiced precision. The special class investigator lunged at Ultima with a speed that was almost impressive, his blade aiming for her throat. But Ultima was faster. She ducked under his strike, her ukaku wings shimmering before firing a volley of razor-sharp shards. The special class twisted midair, dodging most of them, but one sliced across his shoulder, drawing blood. "Not bad," Ultima mused. "But not good enough." The senior investigator took advantage of the moment, swinging his massive kukaku quinque toward Carrera. She grinned, sidestepping effortlessly before her rinkaku coiled around his arm. "Gotcha," she whispered before yanking him forward and sinking her teeth into his neck. The man let out a strangled cry as Carrera tore a chunk from his throat, blood spilling onto the pavement. His eyes rolled back as his body went limp. "That's two," she said, licking her lips. The Rank 2 investigator stumbled backward, fear evident in his expression. He barely had time to turn before Ultima was in front of him, her hand piercing through his chest, fingers wrapping around his heart. "Scared?" she whispered in his ear. He gasped, choking on his own blood. Ultima smiled before squeezing, crushing his heart like a fragile fruit. He collapsed instantly. 3. The remaining Rank 1 investigator turned to flee, but Carrera's rinkaku lashed out, severing his legs at the knees. He screamed, collapsing to the ground. "Oh no! Where do you think you're going?" Carrera mocked, crouching beside him. "I hate it when my food runs away." His cries were cut short as she sank her teeth into him. Now, only the special class investigator remained. He stood his ground, eyes darting between the two ghouls who had effortlessly slaughtered his squad. His grip tightened on his quinque. "Monsters," he spat. Ultima tilted her head. "You say that like you're any different." "I fight to protect people. You kill for pleasure." Carrera grinned, licking the blood from her fingers. "And yet, you're the one with a weapon designed to butcher ghouls like us." The man didn't hesitate. He lunged. Ultima sighed, raising her hand. Her ukaku shards fired in rapid succession, tearing into his body. He staggered, blood pouring from his wounds, but he still held on. His determination was admirable, in a way. Carrera stepped forward, gripping his chin with a blood-stained hand. "You tried," she said almost sweetly, before snapping his neck with a quick twist. His body crumpled. Ultima let out a breath. "Well, that was fun." Carrera rolled her shoulders. "Yeah, but I was expecting a bit more of a challenge." "Perhaps next time." They stood in silence for a moment, then turned back toward the city, their work complete. As they disappeared into the night, the only thing left behind was the blood-stained pavement and the echoes of dying breaths. Mission accomplished. Chapter 10. Twin Calamities declared SS raid threats. The air in the CCG headquarters was thick with tension. The sterile white walls, usually a symbol of order and control, now felt like a cold cage holding the investigators captive in their own uncertainty. A recent massacre of an entire CCG squad, including an investigator of special class rank, had shaken the organization to its core. In a dimly lit conference room, 4 of the most influential figures in the CCG sat around a long table, their faces grim as they reviewed the footage of the attack. 2 ghouls. Kyoko Ora murmured, her fingers tightening around a pen. Not just any ghouls. They executed an entire team, including a special class, without taking a single hit. The screen before them replayed the disturbing scene. The 2 masked ghouls, one with a smirk filled with sadistic pleasure, the other reveling in the destruction, moved with terrifying speed, their cocoons cutting through investigators as if they were nothing more than paper dolls. The aftermath was a grotesque display of carnage, bodies torn apart with terrifying precision. Matsuri Washu exhaled sharply, leaning back in his chair. Rank SS. There's no question about it. Agreed. Itsuki Marude tapped his fingers against the table, eyes narrowed as he studied the footage. We need to act before they take out another squad. If we let them run rampant, we could have another one-eyed owl situation on our hands. Kyoko folded her arms. The question is, who will handle this case? We can't afford another massacre. For a moment, the room fell into silence. The name, One-Eyed Owl, still lingered in their minds. Ito Yoshimura had already proven to be a massive threat to the CCG. And now, 2 new monsters had appeared. Then, a voice broke the silence, calm, composed, absolute. I will handle them. All eyes turned to the man who had been silent throughout the discussion. Kisho Arima, the legendary Reaper of the CCG, sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. His silver hair reflected the dim light, and his pale blue eyes, cold as ice, stared at the screen with the same dispassionate gaze he gave all his targets. Matsuri blinked. Arima, are you certain? You rarely take direct interest in cases like these. Arima didn't answer immediately. He watched the footage one last time. The precision of their attacks, the unnatural speed, the sheer arrogance they exuded, it intrigued him. 2 SS-rated ghouls appearing so suddenly is unprecedented. If left unchecked, they will continue to escalate. I will eliminate them before that happens. Marude nodded, though his expression was still grave. If anyone can handle them, it's you. But be careful. We know next to nothing about their full capabilities. That will change soon. Arima stood, taking the final word on the matter. Without another glance at the others, he left the room. Meanwhile, deep within the Aogiri tree's stronghold, ULTIMA and CARRERA sat together in their shared quarters. A month had passed since they had joined the organization, and in that time, they had earned both fear and admiration. Their reputation within Aogiri was solidifying. 2 powerful ghouls, seemingly unkillable, with an insatiable thirst for battle. CARRERA leaned back against the couch, arms crossed behind her head. You think they've noticed us yet? She asked, grinning. I mean, we did wipe out an entire squad. Feels like the CCG should be panicking right about now. ULTIMA twirled a strand of her purple hair between her fingers, golden eyes gleaming. Oh, they've definitely noticed. I'd be disappointed if they hadn't. But the real question is, who will they send after us? Before CARRERA could respond, the door creaked open, and Ito stepped inside, her ever-present smirk in place. You 2 are causing quite the stir. CARRERA chuckled. Good. I'd hate to think we went unnoticed. Ito leaned against the doorframe. Word is, the CCG has classified you as SS-rated threats. It seems you've joined the ranks of the most wanted ghouls, and they have given you the nicknames of Golden Reaper, for you ULTIMA, and for CARRERA, Scarlet Executioner. And because you 2 act together, they have given to you 2 together the Twin Calamities. ULTIMA grinned. Took them long enough. Eto's smirk widened. There's more. Apparently, they're sending their best after you. CARRERA arched a brow. Their best? You mean? Ito nodded. The Reaper of the CCG himself. Kisho Arima is coming for you. For a brief moment, silence filled the room. CARRERA's grin faltered slightly before turning into something more sinister. The Reaper, huh? Now this is getting interesting. ULTIMA's golden eyes shimmered with excitement. We've faced many opponents, but a legend like him? I wonder, will he be worth our time? Ito chuckled. Arima is not someone you should underestimate. Many powerful ghouls have fallen to his blade. Even the One-Eyed King acknowledges his strength. ULTIMA and CARRERA exchanged glances. Then, almost simultaneously, their lips curled into wide, wicked smiles. Carrera stretched her arms. Finally, a real challenge. I was getting bored. Ultima nodded. Then let's make this interesting. If he wants to hunt us, let's give him a hunt worth remembering. Ito shook her head with amusement. I look forward to seeing how this plays out, just don't die too quickly. With that, she turned and left the room, leaving the twin calamities alone with their thoughts. Carrera cracked her knuckles. So, what's the plan? Ultima exhaled, her excitement barely contained. We keep doing what we do best, and when the time comes, we'll show the Reaper what it means to be hunted. Outside, the night stretched endlessly over the city. The game had begun, and the hunter and prey were about to collide. The question was, who would survive?